Okay, time for the after show. I'm Will Aubrey, and Joe Darnell's alongside me here. And since you all loved hearing Joe sing last week, I have a song for you. This is an original composition. It's called "The Ballad of Fred Flintstone," and I'm gonna try to do it justice here. Let me just see.
For the people who are listening, we really need you to comment on our Facebook page, comment on Twitter's feeds, respond to us, let us know what's going on. Tell us if this is as worst that you've ever heard in your entire life. Tell us what's going on with it. I want some feedback on this one. I was okay with going on Pure Prairie League, but I want to see what Will has here.
All right, The Ballad of Fred Flintstone. Let me tell you all a story about a man named Fred. Poor rock breaker barely kept his family fed. Then one day, when Wilma brought his food, he let out a yabba-dabba-doo. Joy, that is. Hurrah. He. First thing you know, Fred's in his chair. Nothing on the tube. He doesn't care. It's made of rock and doesn't work anyway. Yabba-dabba-doo is all he can say.
Well, there you heard it first, folks. You know what? A moment of levity in an otherwise drab and sad world in which we're living right now. I actually kind of like that. That was pretty good.
I appreciate that. There was a lot of levity the other night. I have a friend, Kathy. We communicate a good bit on Facebook back and forth, and when the Trump golden showers thing came out the other night, the puns were really flying. Would you have ever believed in a million years that a president-elect would have something like this going on?
You know what?
If it were in a movie, you would say that's just unbelievable.
No, and the problem is I have no sympathy at all for Donald Trump. Because here's the problem. Even if this turns out to be completely untrue.
But the word is the Russians have video.
I wouldn't be surprised. No, if this turns out to be completely untrue, how long did he push the unsubstantiated, completely untrue story of a fake birth certificate? You want to talk about chickens coming home to roost? My God, this is... It's poetic justice to the point where you're like, okay, guys, you've proven your point. Now tell us if it's true or not. Because frankly, what else are you going to do? You know what's funny about that? I figured out now why Trump Tower has the decorating accents it does. He's typing in golden showers, and he needed to hide that, so he also got golden toilets and golden accent lighting and golden beds and bed frames and so on and so forth. Absolutely terrible. Do not Google that, people. Just don't do it. Trust me when I say, make sure you keep it in the news tab on Google. It's not something you want to explain to somebody later on.
Otherwise,
it's bad news.
You're in trouble.
Oh.
Oh, me. You might want, though, to go to YouTube and Google Snowbanks of Life by Doyle and Debbie. Doyle and Debbie, they're at the Station Inn every Tuesday in Nashville. It's a country music parody act, and they are hilarious.
Which is the only country music that I like, is when they're making fun of it. I think that's hilarious. But yeah, no, you find stuff like that, and it's funny whenever you hear them, because at first you think they're serious, and then you think they're kidding, and then later on in the middle somewhere, you think they might be serious again, which is the weirdest feeling in the world. They're awesome. They are very funny. They're very funny.
You know,
for the Weird Al Yankovic fans out there, Doyle and Debbie is right up your alley, because it is hilarious what they do with country music.
It truly is. It truly is. And see, back in the day, I loved Robert Altman's Nashville. This takes that very subtle parody and elevates it to a whole other level.
What was the movie? Was it Best in Show that parodied the serious nature of people who take their dogs for dog shows? A very similar kind of a situation. very funny, and if you get a chance, go listen to it, because you need something to distract you from all the political mishaps that are happening around the country right now.
The interesting thing is, somebody asked me the other day, if the Russians are on his side, why did they do this document dump, making this public? And I'm thinking maybe the reason is that, as one story said, they have video of it, and they want leverage over Trump, and so now he's afraid they'll release the video.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan used to paraphrase a quote that was a saying in Russian, and he would say, "Trust but verify, trust but verify." Well, let me tell you something. They have Donald Trump wrapped around their finger, but Donald Trump is known to radically change positions at any given point. They took out an insurance policy against Donald Trump. That's what I think this is. That's what we're looking at here. And congratulations, America. That's who we chose to lead the country, although not a majority of us.
The interesting thing is, one of his appointees, Rex Tillerson, who is his choice for Secretary of State, in his hearings yesterday, had a really hard time, but not from the Democrats. It was from the Republicans. Marco Rubio went after him like, I don't know, a rabid cat who sees a huge fat rat. I mean, he just went after him hammer and tongs. And when asked whether he would vote to confirm Tillerson, he said he hadn't made his mind up yet. And here is the conflict that we're going to see play out over the next 4 years. Donald Trump he's okay with being friendly toward Russia, but the rest of the Republican Party, no. The rest of the Republican Party sees Russia as our enemy, and there's going to be friction between those two views.
Cold warriors still in
yes.
the group. You look at John McCain and Lindsey Graham; those guys are cold warriors. They don't trust anything that comes out of Russia. Not even people who are Americans who come out of Russia. They're not going to trust anything about it. So you're going to have a cadre of senior Republicans who are not going to follow blithely behind Donald Trump. And let's just say something really clear right now. Donald Trump, after being elected president of the United States, has a 37% approval rating. He hasn't done anything. He's just been Donald Trump, and he's got a 37% approval rating. How is this possible? How can people vote for a guy and then go, oh, no, I really don't like him? We're talking, what was the percentage of the popular vote? What did he get? 45%, 50%, 47%, something like that?
I'm thinking maybe 44, and Hillary
44%.
was
so
46.
If we use that as the first one, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's lost some percentage off of that. And here's the problem that I have with the Democratic Party. There was a push to put Hillary Clinton up as she was the presumptive nominee since Barack Obama won election.
Yes.
And never, ever was there ever a big clamoring for her amongst the public. They respected her. They liked her for the most part. They were okay with her job as Secretary of State, and some of the aspects of what she did were fine. She was going to be fairly popular. She has never had a public clamoring for her. So as much as you can look at the FBI and how Comey released stuff at times, and now he's saying he doesn't comment on ongoing investigations, which is hilarious. You know what? There was no FBI investigation in other Democratic candidates. Do you know what I'm saying?
The interesting thing is, though, that almost nobody stepped up to challenge Hillary in 2016 the way that numerous people stepped up to challenge her in 2008. I mean, when your only challengers are Martin O'Malley, who nobody had ever heard of, and a 74-year-old socialist Jew from Vermont.
Who was the likable one out of the group.
Yes. Now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not prejudiced, and I was a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Absolutely.
Okay?
You actually swung me to Bernie Sanders, believe it or not.
So I'm not saying anything against Bernie Sanders, but If those are the only two people who are willing to step up to run against her, I mean, it's clear the party was in the tank for her from the very beginning.
Well,
it was her turn. And the Republicans are usually the ones who do that.
Right, and that's the problem with it. The old saying is the Republican Party falls in line, the Democratic Party falls in love. I'm here to tell you there was one guy out of the prominent Democrats who could have come in and just walked to the nomination and walked his way all the way up to and into the White House, and that's Joe Biden. Joe Biden not going, and I understand why. This is a man who's dedicated his life to service. He's lost family multiple times. He just lost his son Bo to cancer. I harbor no ill will towards Joe Biden at all for deciding not to run. It's an absolute calling. It's not something that you can just say, oh, yeah, I think I'll do this week. It doesn't work like that because it changes your life if you win or lose. But Joe Biden was the only other logical choice. If Joe Biden comes out and says, I want to be the president of the United States, I think he probably wins it and might even galvanize those purple state blue-collar workers that went to Trump and were like, well, we're not going to vote for Hillary.
Moving forward, do you have any idea who the Democratic nominee will be in 2020?
You know, my gut says Elizabeth Warren, maybe Cory Booker, but I somehow doubt it.
See, I think this would have been Elizabeth Warren's year.
Yeah, quite possible.
2016. Yeah. I was very disappointed when she chose not to run.
The problem is, right now, there's such an anti-intellectualism thing, and her background of being a Harvard professor. I know, it's completely nonsensical. You have to ask yourself a question. If you're on an airplane at 30,000 feet, and you look over and say, you know, that pilot's really condescending. I think the guy next to me in 24E, he should be flying the plane. Does that make any sense? No. So why does it make sense when it comes to running the nation? But you look at that.
It's the old, he thinks, in this case it would be she, thinks, he thinks he's smarter than everybody. That's what people say in that circumstance. The truth is, it's not usually the person they're talking about that actually thinks they're smarter than anyone. It's that they feel inferior.
Yeah, and I think her timing got a little hinky on this one. I think if she runs for office 4 years earlier or something like that, takes a position 4 years earlier, I think it's different. But I think she's very qualified. I think she's a fantastic legislator. I think she is incredibly intelligent about what she wants and how things need to work. And the thing is, she's got a cast iron constitution. She's going to be the kind of person who's like, no, that's not right. We're not going to do that. She's not a vacillating, compromiser. She's not a hopped up, ideologue either. She's fairly balanced. She knows what she thinks she wants to do. She's willing to look at things and make the right decision and reassess as needs to be done. That's what you've got to do to be a good leader. And so I like her a lot. But you're going to look for people like Cory Booker possibly. The next probably 6 months are going to be huge. He just made the unprecedented step of actually speaking out against a colleague during the Jeff Sessions Attorney General confirmation hearings. He testified against Sessions. It's the first time a sitting senator has ever done that, especially against another colleague.
Who's the mayor of Newark?
That's Cory Booker was. He's
Cory Booker was. Okay.
Yeah, senator from
I'm thinking there's another guy though from up in the Northeast.
Deval Patrick.
That's who I'm thinking of.
Deval Patrick is another one. He's got some executive experience. He's been a mayor of Boston, I want to say.
Okay.
I think he's the governor of Massachusetts now.
Okay.
Which is good. You've got to have that. But here's the thing. We're not going to get any kind of real substantive change or positive movement until you have a focus on grassroots issues and the Democratic Party.
Now, here's something that I encountered today. Someone had posted a meme suggesting that Michelle Obama would run in 2020. Most of the comments were disgusting and racist and horrifying.
Yeah.
Okay?
Not surprising, unfortunately.
One comment, which I think was misguided, but thought-provoking, suggested that the Democrats needed to nominate someone who had been successful outside of politics. And I personally don't agree with that. I think that if you're running for president of the United States, you should have been a senator or a governor or vice president or something. I don't think it's a learn on the job kind of thing. But if you go that way, the Democratic answer to Donald Trump would be Oprah Winfrey or Tom Hanks.
Well, there's more to it than that. You've got Bloomberg, who has been a middle-left voice in the business world. Of course, he's
a Republican.
Well, he is, but he's really not. He's a New York City Republican, not like Donald Trump, like he actually won in New York City. So, I mean, really, he's probably a moderate Democrat and would probably run as a moderate Democrat. The problem is government is not business. Business is not government. They're not interchangeable. And the lessons you learn running a business are not valuable to you in running government. Government functions on a not-for-profit basis. I've yet to find a business that runs on a not-for-profit basis. I don't understand why I want the best person, no matter where the hell they come from. I don't care what they did in their last job. I don't care if they're capable of doing the job. That's who I want. I don't want them to have. What I don't want the Democratic Party to have is I don't want there to be some sort of a litmus test that says, well, have you been a governor? Have you been a senator? I don't know. We're really looking for somebody from the tech industry, or we're really looking for somebody with national defense history, or I want the person who's best suited for the job. That's it. That's my only criteria. And anybody if you start out by limiting what you're looking for, well, they need to have this, they need to have that, you're going to end up messing yourself up.
I agree with you.
Because otherwise, we would have had a far more open primary, because instead of just saying, well, she's earned it, it's her turn, you would have had, who does the country actually want most right now? What are they thinking is important for this 4 years and for this iteration of the American government? And you might have gotten a business person from the Democratic side. You might have gotten somebody even as middle of the road as Bloomberg. You might have gotten somebody far left. You might have gotten Bernie Sanders in an open primary. And that might have been different. They might have wanted somebody who was starkly different, but we'll never know.
Now, take a look at Kentucky politics. The Republicans have done some interesting
Kentucky
things.
politics brought to you by Mylanta. I'm telling you, it's bad news.
They passed the right to work bill.
Yeah, right to work for less, yep.
And let's be clear, here's what that means. If you work at a plant that's a union plant, under the right to work law, you do not have to pay union dues and be a member of the union. Here's
to get the same benefits that the union contract is giving.
Absolutely. To get the same benefits that the union contract gives. Okay? Now, here's how that always plays out.
Yep.
People working at that plant start leaving the union because they say to themselves, I can get the same pay and benefits without paying union dues.
They become free riders on that.
That's right. Then eventually, enough people leave the union at that plant so that the union becomes decertified, and then there are no union workers at that plant, and then the plant cuts wages.
Absolutely.
It has always happened, and the result is always disaster for the middle class. Right to work laws are one of the biggest reasons for the decline in the middle class in this country over the last 35 years. The prevailing wage law that they passed, also highly objectionable. One construction, and what that required was that for state contracts, that the state was required to pay the people who worked on that project what the average wage in the area was for those jobs.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Right.
Now, that was abolished.
Yep.
And as a result of that, now they can pay whatever.
Yeah.
And one construction firm already announced like a 30 to 40% reduction in wages for their employees,
yep,
because they no longer have to pay the prevailing wage.
Right.
There's no way that it's good for people.
No, and think about it from an investment standpoint, okay? Those workers who got those prevailing wage jobs, they made more money. I guarantee they spent more money too.
Yes.
And not only that, but they got taxed in their payroll taxes more because they got paid more. So the state actually recouped that money back. And then they spent more money in their communities, and all those community businesses that got money, whether it be Walmart or not, they pay payroll taxes, they pay state taxes, they pay all the taxes that you would have, and you have all the business licenses and so on and so forth. What you're effectively doing is taking money out of a community and giving it to the owners of these construction companies.
That's absolutely true. Now, they try to pretend that this is about saving money for state government, when that's not what it's about at all.
Mm-mm.
If you talk to these people and just listen to what they say, it quickly becomes obvious that what it's about is elitism. They do not believe that someone who works in manual labor deserves to make as much money as they do. They look down on those people, and they do not believe that those people deserve to be paid a living wage.
Well, and I take it one step further. I think they don't understand what those jobs actually require. Some of the smartest, most talented, and most professional people I've ever met are laborers doing manual labor. They are professional about their job. These guys are stonemasons, they're brick masons, they're carpenters, they're metal workers, they're pipe fitters. These are very skilled and very difficult jobs that are oftentimes extremely dangerous. And they do these jobs day in and day out at a level that nobody else does. And what you're saying is, oh, by the way, you don't work in an office, you don't deserve to have more money. And that's bull. And I'm calling it out right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I also want to talk briefly about the two abortion-related bills. One makes abortion...
You mean the red herring laws, right?
Yes, yes. One of them, at the very least, is a red herring law. The abortion law makes it illegal to perform an abortion in the state of Kentucky after a gestational age of 20 weeks, unless the life of the mother or the impairment of a necessary organ or function is likely, okay? In those circumstances, it's okay to go ahead and perform the abortion, although it has to be documented 6 ways from Sunday. But, no exceptions for things like rape or incest or anything like that. Now, the law will be struck down, as similar laws have been, for being unconstitutional.
Hence the red herring.
Yes, because it's 20 weeks. Roe versus Wade said you can restrict access to abortion after 24 weeks. Interestingly, almost no states have done that. They try to pass laws that they know are going to be struck down for being unconstitutional. If this law simply said 24 weeks instead of 20 weeks, it probably would not be struck down.
Yeah, it'd be one of those you go, that is what is called a reasonable limitation. There's room for reasonable limitation to abortion in Roe v. Wade.
Right.
There is. That was part of there's reasonable limitation allowance. The 20-week is not a reasonable limitation. And it's already been found to be a non-reasonable limitation. I don't know why you keep trying to push the same issues, except that it galvanizes a base of people who are voting against their own best interests.
That's absolutely true. And if they really cared about restricting abortion, they would have made it 24 weeks, and they would have done things that actually make abortion rarer, like providing free birth control to poor people.
Or having sex education that actually educates.
Yes.
Because I'm here to tell you, no amount of abstinence only is going to get...
And making adoption easier.
Make adoption easier. Make the parents who are wishing to adopt lessen their paperwork burden. Now, that might mean that you have to do a little bit more spot checking later on. I don't know of any adoptive parents who are upset by that at all. If they get to have the child and they get to take care of the child, come on over. We'll talk to you. We'll have coffee. I'll make a cake. It'll be great. These are wonderful people who are taking this step, but you've got to take some of the burden off of them. You can't make being pregnant out of wedlock or being pregnant at 15 and 16 years old, you cannot make that a death sentence. And that's what you do whenever you say, oh, by the way, there's no chance for you to get access to birth control. There's no access for you to get child care. There's no access for you to get job training, or there's no way for you to go to work and do the things you need to do to support that family. You're just going to live in poverty your entire life. Congratulations. That's the problem we have. We have a gap between, well, you shouldn't have sex, to, well, you've had sex, you deserve all the negatives that go with it.
And telling teenagers, well, just don't have sex, and expecting that they're going to listen to you and follow through on that, that's naive. I mean, come on, people. Mind-boggling.
It absolutely is. And what's really disturbing about it is it's all under the guise of being pro-life, pro-people, and it's absolutely not. It is absolutely against people. It's against the actual people who do the living and dying and working and bleeding, and that's why I don't like it.
But let me tell you what's going to get Bevan beat when he runs for re-election.
Okay, let me hear it.
Closing the rest stop at Beaver Dam on the Western Kentucky Parkway. Now, it shouldn't be a bigger issue than all these other things, but that's the issue that will get him beat, because that makes people mad. It directly affects them.
Why? What possible reason did he have to shut it down? That's the big question. If we can't answer that, then there's no reason that he did it spitefully for some reason. I can't figure out why.
The excuse given is that the renewal paperwork for the lease wasn't filed on time by the people that run the place, okay? And so, okay, but now, there's been a huge uproar over it. The Transportation Department says they're going to reopen the facility, and they probably will, with it being operated by friends of the governor. And that's the part that's going to be the big thing. If it comes to light that he was lobbied by people who end up taking over that, there's absolutely pay-to-play politics, and the people in Kentucky have got to reject that, because that's the kind of stuff that keeps us so low on the government trustable indices that we've got out there. We have corrupt government in the state of Kentucky, and what do? We elect a guy who might or might not be the most corrupt guy you could possibly get in the state office. And if he proves that to be true, I don't think he should finish his first term, because it behooves the Republicans in the legislature to step up and make a change. And if they won't do it, then I hope the voters in the state of Kentucky will. I agree. Anything else?
You know what? I think that's enough. I need to go take a nap and kind of relax a little bit. It's been a little hectic.
That brings to a close this edition of the Improbability Engine.